Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a nice little 5-game Major League Baseball slate. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? Really helps the channel a lot. I really do appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get started in the slate. So we have a small slate here, but we have some good games in this one. We have a game between Colorado and Cincinnati at Cincinnati. We also have Minnesota looking pretty good today, Cleveland looking pretty good today. Atlanta and Texas both look okay today as well. So let's go ahead and start with our pitchers. Chris Sale is the top overall play. He's the only really good pitcher on this slate. He's the only guy that looks like he'll give up less than 4 earned runs. And he has the best K rate on the slate by a lot. So he is a core play for me. He's going to be very chalky today. Just keep that in mind. But he's chalky for a reason. He's got a good strikeout rate. He's been absolutely phenomenal all season long. He's had a good game against Arizona earlier this year, and he should be able to get a bunch of strikeouts in this one and limit the earned runs. As for other options today, Abbott for Cincinnati against Colorado is somewhat interesting. He's managed 18 fantasy points in Colorado at Colorado before, and he can do similar here. He just doesn't have a super high ceiling. He's only had really one high ceiling game all season, so I don't expect that. But somewhere in the 18 to 22 range is probably where he ends up landing, and so that's pretty good. He is one of the more expensive plays on the slate, but that's fairly limited here, and he's got a decent K rate, not a great one. John Gray for Texas is kind of a cheaper play here. Now he's got a low K rate. Aside from that, I want to like him here, but he's given up a ton of earned runs over the past 5 games. It's hard to feel much confidence in him right now, but he has one of the better matchups on the entire slate. Even though I do think a couple guys from the Angels have some upside, he's definitely in play on this one as a kind of a extreme GPP play. Looking at Williams for Cleveland, now he has a tougher matchup against Detroit today. His K rate being okay helps some, but he still seems risky given he's the second most expensive play on the slate. And he got rocked by the Chicago White Sox last time he pitched. So he's really, this is only his second game this season, so coming back from injury, so he's a little bit risky here. I'm not sure he's going to have the highest of strikeout counts or pitch counts, especially if he doesn't get too far without giving up some earned runs. Not only that, but he isn't one of the better strikeout guys on the slate, so he's kind of risky. Then we have 2 Hail Mary plays for you. Chris Paddock for Minnesota. Now he's coming off the injury list here, and he has not been all that great this season, but he's one of the better options on this entire slate. And if you look at his past 2 seasons, he's only had 1 game over 30 fantasy points, but it came against the Chicago White Sox in April this year, so he does have some upside, even though it's high risk, high reward here. Hail Mary play only. And then we'll look at Montero for the Tigers. He is also a Hail Mary play. Now he has a unforgiving matchup against Cleveland. However, he's 4K, and you can pay up for some bats here and sacrifice the pitching precision here. And, there's a little bit of a chance that he has an okay game here. But he's just dirt cheap. Helps you pay up for more for bats. But he's definitely a Hail Mary play in the most extreme sense of that. As for the ownership rank here, Chris Sale will be first, Abbott second, Gray third, Davis Daniel for the Angels will be 4th, and Gavin Williams will be 5th, so keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and look at our catchers here. So catching is very interesting today. We actually have some decent options on the slate, but Ryan Jeffers does jump off the page as the top overall play here. He's got a really good matchup against the White Sox, and I think he has a lot of upside here for a home run. And so he's one of my favorite plays at this position, though this position is pretty deep, so he's not a must play, even though he does have some good home run metrics on the slate. He's been a little bit inconsistent lately, but we do like Sean Murphy here for Atlanta as well. Now, he has struggled this season, but he is finally starting to hit the ball better the last week or so, so hopefully he can have a good game here. He has home run upside on the slate as well, and he's nice and cheap at $3,400. Hunter Goodman also looks interesting for Colorado. Now, he can move in the outfield as well. Even though he struggled a lot this season, he does have home run best position upside here, though he has struggled on the road so far this season. But this is a good matchup in Cincinnati. Top ownership at this position will be Sean Murphy and Tyler Stevenson, and the low-owned upside guys are Ryan Jeffers and Hunter Goodman. Looking at first base, We do like Matt Olson a lot today for Atlanta. He does have a very good matchup here. He's been hitting the ball pretty well. He's also done well against Arizona this season already with 2 home runs against them. I look for him to have a potential for a really big game here, and he's nicely priced at $5,000. Josh Naylor is a little bit pricier, but he definitely has some upside today. Even though I do think you could go with the Detroit pitcher as a Hail Mary throw, I think Naylor has a lot of potential for a home run on this slate, so he's hard to ignore. Candelario for Cincinnati is a nice cheap play that gets you some other positions at a better price, and he's hitting the ball decent last few games, even though he's getting some strikeouts. I do think he has great metrics for this game, and he's been better at home than on the road, especially from a batting average perspective. Nate Lowe is kind of a contrarian play as well for Texas, as he does draw good home run metrics today, but he has really struggled most of the season. However, his batting is improving, and so I do like his upside on the slate. Candelario is going to be your top owned play, and the low owned upside options will be Carlos Santana, Matt Olson, and Michael Toglia. Well, yeah, second base. This is probably one of the deeper positions at this on this slate. It's one of my probably the most difficult position today, simply because it's so deep. But Ozzy Albies is a top tier play here. He's been hitting the ball better recently. He's had a couple of home runs last few games, and I do like his upside in this matchup here. He's also, you know, been really good uh, lately, so he does have good metrics here. I think he's a little bit pricey, considering the fact you could pay down at this position as well, but we'll get to that here. Marcus Semien also looks fantastic today for Texas, even though he is about the same price as Albies. He's a good contrarian play away from him. Jimenez doesn't have a lot of home run upside today. He's got good hitting metrics, but I think he's very contrarian on the slate. He does have some upside, but he's high risk, high reward. Jonathan India also looks interesting for the Reds, even though he's somebody I'm probably not going to use much of. His price point is decent, and he definitely gives you some upside here. And then Brendan Rodgers for Colorado. He's probably my favorite play from Colorado today. He looks better than Ryan McMahon even, and so he does draw some interesting metrics here on the slate. The one guy I'm also going to mention because he pops up on the slate here is Angel Martinez for Cleveland. Now, he hasn't played a ton of games yet, but he's actually been pretty solid in the games he has played. Uh, if he draws a start, he'll be somebody I would consider on this one, but he has only gotten a couple at bats in most of his games so far. So I do think he's interesting, though, as a kind of a Hail Mary play at this position, and he'll have some good ownership because of his price point. But India, Rogers, Martinez, and Willie Castro have the top ownership at second base. Marcus Semien, Ozzy Albies, the low owned upside guys. Third base is a little bit tougher today with and it's fairly expensive with Jose Ramirez being super expensive. He's hitting the ball decent, but he's not really getting a ton of home runs lately. But he does have that potential. He had two last week, I think, and 2 weeks ago, I should say, and then last week he hadn't had any. But he is kind of due for one. But this is not the best situation for him. Austin Riley also looks solid though, and he has good home run metrics today as well. Even though he has struggled most of the season, he is improving, and it seems like Atlanta's starting to hit the ball better as of late. So hopefully he can continue that here. But one of my favorite value plays on this one is going to be Navi Marte for Cincinnati. He's also not played a ton of games so far this season, but he's had some decent games. Now he's a little bit risky as he has a really bad batting average, but he does have some home run metrics on this one. And if we look at his stats, he's really struggled a lot, but he's nice and cheap. And if you don't utilize um, Angel Martinez at second base, you could use him at third base to kind of save you some money. But the top ownership at this position will be Austin Riley and Jose Miranda. And the low owned upside guys will be Jose Ramirez, Marte, Josh Smith, Ryan McMahon, and Brooks Lee. Though I don't really like McMahon or Brooks Lee very much today. Looking at shortstop, it seems pretty obvious to see Corey Seager here. He's got really fantastic situation here. He's hitting the ball very well lately. I like him against Angels and the pitcher, so I think he's a great play, and he's nicely priced. Aylin De La Cruz is the other guy you could use here, though he does need to either get a home run or a couple stolen bases to pay off here, and he's been really hit or miss as of late, but he has that upside in the slate as always, so it's not like he can't do it. He just needs to. Situation is definitely good for him too. He's just way more expensive than Seager. The ownership is going to be between these two guys quite a bit. But we do have a couple low-owned upside guys in Ezekiel Tovera, Orlando Arcia, and Josh Smith. Though I think that just sticking with Seager is probably the best way to go today. Looking at the outfielders, we do have quite a few good outfielders today, but the most expensive options, Quan and also Marcell Ozuna, both look absolutely fantastic today. So trying to fit one of those guys in today is definitely going to be something I'm going to try to figure out. But you don't have to utilize them. Byron Buxton also available here for Minnesota, and he's a pretty good price, and he's been hitting the ball very well. Minnesota is sneaky today, as they don't. They're going to have a lot of ownership, but they don't really pop off the page when it comes to their metrics against the White Sox. But I do think that they have a lot of upside today. Riley Green also in play for Detroit, and Adolis Garcia for Texas also has some utility here. But our value plays today are going to be Willie Benson for the Reds. He looks fantastic today. Even though he's struggled this season with strikeouts and stuff, he does draw good metrics if he starts, and he'll be somebody who's a core play for me. Same kind of goes for Kalenic. If he starts today, he's also been hitting the ball pretty well lately. He's had some ups and downs, but he does draw good home run metrics today as well. A couple other guys to consider at this position: Eloy Jimenez, Trevor Larnach, and Max Kepler. The top ownership at this position will be pretty much the Minnesota Twins, and then Willie Benson, Angel Martinez, Jared Kalenic, and Adam Duvall. Keep in mind that Martinez can play here in outfield as well, so it just depends on how you want to, if you want to utilize him there. But Duvall is also interesting for the Braves if he ends up starting. The low-owned upside guys today will be Adolis Garcia, Blake Dunn, Marcell Ozuna, Hunter Goodman, Brenton Doyle, Nolan Jones, and Eli White. So with that said, guys,